Hi there, Earth Nation, and welcome back to this summit that I am conducting on the what, how, when of the quantum and all of the amazing things that you can create if you tap into the energies that are there surrounding us and there to support us. And I am here today with Lisa Jimenez. And Lisa, I'm going to read your bio and then we get to dive into your amazing stories. So Lisa has a mission. Her mission is to help women uncover their gifts, believe in themselves, and live the life they were meant to live. No excuses, no apologies. After years of working through old wounds and crippling fear and feeling like she just wasn't good enough, that made her tired of living that way. She came here with an amazing gift. Once she finally quieted down and listened to her guides, there was no denying what she was meant to be, do, and have. And she couldn't spend one more day contributing in this world in a way that just didn't matter. Lisa realized as women, we've been held down, held back, and held to an unrealistic standard that binds us in fear and inadequacy. It is her life's work as a healer, creator, and transformational coach to help all women that she attracts to realize their magic, to stand strong in themselves, and to live their most authentic and abundant life. Lisa has been a women's empowerment coach and teacher for over 15 years. She is the founder of Creative Life Happy Soul and has created her own modality known as transformational creativity that teaches you how to get into alignment and create the life you want by tapping into your creativity. Lisa is also the founder of the She Is Me Conference, a platform for women's empowerment with over 100 women's empowerment speakers last year alone. So a lot of accomplishments, Lisa. And I know that you started out in the regular old corporate life with a job and,
Yep.
you know, the usual sort of, I think the feminine dream of you grow up, you get married, you have a couple of kids and get a great job and buy a house. And
all of the above.
right. And you've chosen to move into something more esoteric, you know, this transformational coach, working in the energy, being intuitive. And, you know, I know you offer amazing card readings and amazing energy clearings. And I would love to hear your story and have everybody here get to find out how you went from that particular timeline to the one that you are on now.
Oh, great. Okay. So I'll try and compact it and
In 10
make
minutes
it as short. 10 minutes less. Yeah. So I grew up with a really big family, Catholic, lots of kids, lots of trauma, lots of craziness, but always this sense of duty to the family and not disappointing anybody and having all of these expectations, you know. So you grow up, you go to college, you get married, you have kids, you buy a house, you do all of those things. And I did all of those things. And I also never really tried to do anything the easy way. I always tried to do things the hard way because I thought harder was better. And that, you know, if you could really do those hard things, then it meant that you were worth something. And that was really, you know, I based my worth on my accomplishments. So I was the standard overachiever, like, you know, straight A's, and I couldn't get 1 degree. I had to get 4 degrees, and I couldn't do, you know, this and that, whatever. I couldn't just go and get a job. I had to be you know, an aerospace engineer. And then I had to, you know, climb the corporate ladder. And by the time I was 35, you know, I was making well into 6 figures and 2 kids and $1 million home and a husband and all of those things and all the toys, you know, the RV and the boat and then all the stuff that you're supposed to have as success. And I was the most unhappy I'd ever been. And for about, I'd say 10 years into that, I had a wonderful teacher who was not only a professional astrologer, but taught me all about law of attraction and taught me about Abraham and sort of turned me on to Abraham Hicks. And so that sort of like propelled me into this idea of energy and that we have control over the energy and we don't even realize it, right? I know Abraham said at one point in one of the many times I've been to see Abraham and many recordings that I have, we could fly if we just believed we could, right? So with that being said, I'm also a professional artist. So I, after being in corporate for so long and really killing myself and not getting to where I wanted to be for reasons that I really had no control over, right? I mean, I was a woman in a man's world, and it's really tough, and I fought the hard fight, but I was never going to be that senior VP. I was never going to be that, not to mention that I'm blonde and I have big boobs and, you know, those kinds of things that just are like, really, it doesn't matter if you're smart because nobody can see that when you have those wonderful attributes. But I was never really happy because all the while I was always thinking like there's so much more that I don't know. And there's so much more that this doesn't feel right. What feels right is using my intuition, which I've always had. My grandmother was a very powerful healer from Mexico. And I grew up with her really and spent a lot of time with her. So I learned a lot about herbs, about laying hands and using the energy of my body for healing and things like that. But, it's not something you walk around and talk about. Oh, you don't feel good? Let me put my hands on you and see if I, can do something really, Reiki-esque, right? But it's just, I didn't even know what Reiki was. It was just something that I knew how to do. And so when I decided to leave the corporate world, I thought, I was really thinking like, I didn't really want to leave. I kind of wanted to stay in, but I kind of wanted to do my own thing because I really loved being at that sort of bleeding edge of technology and knowing what's happening, what's coming and all that fun stuff. So I thought, well, how could I could go back in and I could teach corporate teams how to work better together by using their creativity and creating something together, which really binds people together, like we're creating, I mean, we've been friends forever, but, when you create something with someone, it's a co-creation, right? So it's something that's powerful and you always have that bond with that person. You always have that. And so I was like, well, how can I go in and teach these teams how to work better together by using creative transformation, or transformational creativity, which is something that I was like, oh, I can teach this. And so I spent years sort of developing this process. And so I started doing that. And then people started asking me, can I work with you independently? And can I do this? So I started coaching. And now, 25 years ago, maybe, is when I was first introduced to Abraham. So it was my first, even though I knew this stuff before, I didn't really realize it. And then that was one of many teachers that I've had, including my mentor who introduced me to all this stuff. But many teachers, including, and so because I was an aerospace engineer, like I'm really into theoretical physics, and I read a lot about string theory and black holes and energy and stuff like that. So, but that really doesn't come up in teaching. It's just my like, oh, I'm such a geek like that. But so what I teach people now is not only just the creativity part of it, because the creativity is how to tap into, a lot of people have problems with meditation or quieting down and listening, and that creative outlet is a way for you to do that without oming it out, right? You don't have to sit and like om and be quiet and all that stuff, but when I paint, I am in such a meditative state. Sometimes I don't even eat the whole day. And the only reason I stop sometimes to get up and go to the bathroom because I can't wait any longer. But I'm so just in the zone. And so that's really what comes out, is teaching people how to sort of get in that zone. But also how to use energy and how to ask, right? Because when you ask, the universe goes, here you go, it's yours. But unless you allow it, you can't have it, right? You've got to open up, you've got to receive it. And that's what transformational creativity does. It is the art of allowing. It's allowing that ask to come to you. And it's all about vibration. It's all about energy. And yeah, so how do I then get to where I need to be, or how do I get all the stuff I want, right? Whether it's a happy life or a new job or a new car or whatever. And it's not your job to really know how it's going to happen. It's your job just to let it happen, right? And to trust the universe and trust the energy. And so when I was at the end of my marriage, at the end of my career, my kids were teenagers. So I had teenagers, I had a terrible marriage. I had this career. I was driving 60 miles each way to my job and fighting traffic, and 2-hour commute each way, you know, craziness. I remember saying, okay, I just want it to be over. I just want this marriage to be over, but I don't want to fight about it. I want it to be over, you know, but I just want it to be over. But I want it to be over after the holidays, because my ex-husband's birthday was on Christmas. So I was like, and it was reaching its peak at this point. And I said, I just want it to be over, but not until after the holidays. Universe, can you do that for me? Not until after the holidays. And on January 1st at 6 a.m., he jumps out of bed, and this is New Year's Day, and he's completely freaking out. And he says, what do you want, a divorce? And I said, yes. And it was after the holidays. And so, you know, there were some not so wonderful things that happened afterwards. But my advice to you, to anybody in this, is when you ask, be as specific as possible, you know, so do ask for an easy transition, you know, an easy where everybody's happy, and, you know, like, just be specific as possible. Because sometimes, you know, I've known instances where people have said, hey, I want a new car, and then they get in an accident and blah, blah, blah. And sure, the insurance pays for a new car, and it's a piece of crap car because that's all your insurance paid for. So be specific. I want a brand new, beautiful car, black, blah, blah, blah. And even during this, 6 months prior to the divorce, I was still in a crappy marriage. You know, all this stuff was happening. But we were looking for a house, and it was one of those instances where, you know, well, maybe if we buy a new house, everything will change and it'll be better. You know, people often believe those things. I did. And I sat down, because I was working with my mentor at the time, and I sat down and said, this is what I want. I want a new house. I want everyone to have their own room. I thought this was really making it. If I could have a couch in my bedroom at the time, I thought, hey, I've made it. Right? I could have a couch I have enough room that I could have a couch, sitting area in my bedroom, a backyard, you know, for the dog, a covered patio for entertaining, a game room. I wanted a yellow house with white shutters. I wanted a stone fireplace. I wanted all of those. I mean, I wrote it down specifically. Rose garden. That was the other thing I wanted. And I went to go look at this house kind of on a whim after one of my kids' soccer games. And I walked up, and I thought this house was so beautiful. And the floors were new, and blah, 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 blah. And I put an offer in when I got the house. And about 6 weeks later, I had an open house kind of, you know, what do you call it? Housewarming. And my teacher came to the housewarming, and she walked in, she goes, Lisa, you manifested the exact house that you said you were going to. And I said, what? And she goes, yeah, where's that workbook? Blah, blah, blah. And I went and got it, and we walked around, and we were like, rose garden, yellow house, white shutters, We had 2 redwood trees on the property. I wanted like forest, redwood trees. I had my own little, I wanted a Zen space, and it had an extra side patio with
Mhm.
a bamboo garden. I didn't even realize that when I just said, yeah, sure, I'll take this house. But it was exactly, it reminds me of if you've ever seen The Secret, there was the
Yeah.
one guy who goes back and looks at one of his vision boards. He actually lives in the house that he had put on his vision board years before. It kind of
Yeah,
reminded me
yeah,
of
I
that.
remember that story. It was the exact house.
It was the exact house. Yeah.
Yeah, if I'm remembering it correctly, that's the one that came from The Secret. I know there's a story of one where they realized that they'd put something like what they wanted on their vision board, and then discovered that when they moved into the thing that was like what they wanted, it was actually the house that they
Right.
had gotten out of a magazine.
Yeah, he was unpacking his boxes
Yeah.
after they'd moved into the house, and he pulled out the old vision board, and I've done that too. I pulled out because I always keep my vision boards, and I thought the other day, I was thinking, oh, something came, Mercury's in retrograde now, and like things come up to revisit, and like something came to mind, and I thought, oh, I could revisit that. So I pulled out some old vision boards, and the very first one I ever did, I have every single thing I wanted on that vision board today, every single thing. So yeah, the energy is there. The universe co-creates with you, so it's spectacular.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned way back, the Abraham Hicks and the recordings that spoke to you around actually, having more control over your life than you think. And part of the message that I really would like, our participants to absorb is that we actually have control over things that appear like maybe we don't. We think of anything that's around us or outside ourselves as being outside of our control. And we can actually create our environment in such a way that we can have things easy around us. And I was
Right.
wondering if you could expand on that and how that has worked for you. And
So
then,
things like the weather, right?
yeah, things like the weather. I have my own weather story, and I know you have one. So if you want to talk about that one, that would be perfect.
So not too long, well, I have plenty of stories like that, but not too long ago, we were coming back. We'd gone up to go skiing, I think, up in the Reno, Tahoe area. And we knew that there was a storm coming, but we didn't know exactly, they're always wrong about when it's going to be there and everything. So we had planned to get up and leave and get home before the storm came, but the storm came through a little bit early. And I've never been in a storm like this in my entire life. And so we ended up, all roads out of the area were closed. So we ended up having to travel north to get out of, or sort of beat the storm. For some reason, the system came in, and it was, as long as we went north, we were sort of ahead of it, and then we could cut over and come back. But the only ways to cut, there's a giant mountain range that runs all the way through the state of California. So if you're on one side of the mountain range, the only way to get home, which I live on the coastal side, the only way to get home is to go over the mountain range. So we decided we'd head north, and I don't think I've ever been in winds that strong before. And there's this, flat road that heads up out of Reno up north, and the winds, it overturns big trucks, and cars get thrown off the road and everything else. And I was just like, okay, come on, we got this, we're getting there. But it just kept coming and coming and coming and coming and coming. And so we weren't going to stop. We made sure we filled up the tank, and we weren't going to stop until we got somewhere where it was safe. And so we went up over the pass at the furthest point we could actually hit before we could cross over without going up into Oregon.
Mhm.
And we get up to the pass, and we get to the sort of to the top of the pass, and there's a Y, and you can go two ways. One way is much quicker, but you have to have chains, and you have to have this, and we have a four-wheel drive, all-wheel drive car, so we weren't too worried about it. The other way is a lot longer, and it's a very windy and everything, but one is lower elevation, one's higher elevation. So
Okay.
the short path was higher elevation, the long path was short. So we start to go on the short path, and the woman says, do you have chains? And we said no, because we have an all-wheel drive thing. And she's well, and she threw out some numbers of, it's a blank blank storm, and we're not letting anybody go without chains. And we said okay, and then we start to go back to the other road, and it gets closed. So we have to go on the thing, but we don't have chains. So we're just like, okay, we're just going to do it. And the first thing I think is, because I was a survival Girl Scout. I was, I learned all of these survival skills. I've been in many, many situations where it's like, it's okay. I know how to find food. I know how to build shelter. I know how to find water. I'm good. And so, and I'm always reading things, like, oh, if you get stuck in a snowstorm, what do? You turn your heater on for this long, you turn it off, and you turn your heater on for this long,
Mhm.
don't get out of your car because nobody can see all this stuff. So all this stuff's going through my mind as we're driving down the road. But then I realized I'm feeling really, my vibration's really low, and I'm feeling really bad. And I know from experience, when your vibration's really low, you're just vibrating with other things that are very low vibration, and those things usually aren't very good. So I was like, okay, how do I raise my vibration in this situation? Because I don't want to be scared. Everything's temporary, even this storm. Even if we just pulled over and sat there, the storm's going to pass in a couple of hours, and we're going to be okay no matter what, right? But the wind, it was snowing. I've never seen it snow that hard. I mean, it was complete whiteout conditions, and no plows, no nothing. And occasionally there would be a big truck coming the other way, or another car, but there weren't a lot of people out in this storm. And there was a truck in front of us, a big rig. So we kind of stayed close enough that we could see his lights, his rear lights, but not close enough that if he stopped, we were going to, slam into him. So it was just very harrowing. It was very like, but I sat there for a minute, and my poor husband was just, really focused and like really, trying to get us to safety. Because there was no other way. There was no other way. If we had stayed where we were, we would have been snowed in for a week. Like, there was just we had to get out of there. And so I just did a little talking to the universe, like I always do. And I was like, wouldn't it be nice? And this is my phrase, because when you ask and you soften it up, it also raises your vibration, right? So you just soften up. I'm just asking, wouldn't it be nice if it stopped snowing and the sun came out and we could see our way down this road? And then it could snow after we're off the road, but wouldn't it be nice if this happened? And then I started imagining what the road would look like when the sun came out, and how beautiful it would be with the white roads and the trees all covered in snow, and everything's sort of untouched, because when it snows like that and nobody's around, everything's just untouched, right? It's so beautiful. So I started thinking about that, and I started thinking and asking okay, universe, you know what? You could give me a break, half an hour, we can get down this hill in the sunshine, and everything would be okay. And just doing exercises like that in my head. It doesn't matter if you say it out loud, as long as you're thinking it, it's your vibration, right? So I really got into that feeling, and I was feeling the sun, and I was enjoying the sunshine and how beautiful it looked. And it wouldn't matter if that truck was in front of us or not. And it would just be lovely. It would give poor Charlie a break. He could relax a little bit and he would feel better, and, all of those things. And 5 minutes later, the clouds broke open and the sun shone through, and we've made our way down the hill. And we, by the time we got to, I think, Reading, everything closed back up and it started snowing again for the next 24 hours or something.
Yeah, which
Absolutely
for
no
those of you who
sun.
don't know, Reading is at the bottom
Oh,
of
yeah.
the valley there in the central
Yeah.
part of California, north central. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Very north. And so from where we were to Reading was a couple of hours driving, but that's the only way we could have gotten across the mountains.
Yeah.
Because the storm was going all the way north. So it didn't even matter if we drove into Washington or Oregon, it wouldn't matter. We still had to come across the pass. So, but yeah, I really started laughing. I just started laughing and I was like, thank you, universe. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. So, and being in gratitude is another way to raise your vibration, So even though it was not the most ideal conditions, we sort of knew that going in, but I was grateful that we were together. I was grateful that we had a wonderful time, thinking about those things. Like, I'm grateful that he's driving and he's doing this, because I don't know if I could. I probably could, but it would just be really taxing on me. Mm-hmm. That I was able to be there for support for him, and, on and on and on, right? That the car's in good working condition, and that, all the things that to be grateful for.
Well, let me ask you this, if you feel like you're done with that description.
Yeah.
So there have been times in my life where I've gotten exactly what I wanted through visioning. And then there have been times in my life where I've only gotten like a little portion of what I wanted through visioning. And I would love to hear you expand on why you think that happens. What is going on where you maybe only get half of what you wanted, or sometimes maybe you don't get it at all. It's interesting that these things are going to come up for all of us, and I would like to get your take on what's going on with the universe and you when that's the scenario.
Yeah. So I always say, I'm grateful that we don't have instant manifestation, right? I mean, sometimes we do, red light to green light, or parking spaces, or, no line at the bank or whatever. I mean, I work it all the time, no matter where I'm going. Like, we call it the parking gods. The parking gods are going to help us again. And
I have
we
one of
always
those
get, yeah, we always get the parking space right up front, and we always, no line, or we're waiting in line and then somebody comes up and says, oh, I'll help you right over here. And we're like, thanks. We look at each other and we laugh, like, okay. But imagine, do you remember those little, they're little square grids with numbers on them, and you got them when you were a kid, and you moved all the little square things around
in the car. Yeah.
So you move all those square grids around.
You have to put it in order. Yeah.
Right. And you have to put it in order. So imagine when you ask for something that you really, really want. Let's use a partner. Let's use a love partner, right? You ask for that, what you really, really want. And so as soon as you ask, the universe goes, cool. And the universe gets their puzzle out and starts moving things around, right? So there's got to be another person out there that's going to match your vibration. There's going to be another person out there so imagine you're the universe, you're the grand energy creator, and you're saying, oh, dang, Amanda just asked for this, and this. And there's 20 choices here, but they don't live near her, and they aren't matching her vibration at all, right? There's no one out there looking for the things that matches her vibration, looking for the things that Amanda has. So here's this one over here. He doesn't quite have all of those things, but he has kind of some of those things, and his vibration might match a little bit. So we're gonna put them out there. So Amanda can then learn what it is she really wants and what she doesn't really want, right? So that's why sometimes when you're looking for that love interest and then somebody comes in, you're like, oh, that's the one, that's the one. And then, a couple months later, you're like, yeah, he's definitely not the
Not the
one.
one. Yeah.
But then you know what you don't want, which teaches you to know what you really do want. So you might think you want someone who's super attentive and kind and right here, but then you get it and he's just like, oh, Amanda, what are you doing now? Can I help you? Can I do? And you're just like, oh my God, get out of my house, right? So it helps you sort of what do you call it, like
Fine tune.
funnel in, get in tune, get into alignment with what it is you really, really want. And that's why I say be super specific about what it is you really, really want.
Mhm.
But sometimes you get that thing or you get part of it and you're like, yeah, well, that's not really, it's kind of there. Like he had these really great qualities, but the rest of this I don't really want. So what I want, that next person who comes in my life, I really want these things, but I want these things to be different, right? And you fine tune and you fine tune and you fine tune. So the other thing is, I think that you are just kind of in your, not you, but people are just sort of in their own little world thinking, oh, I really want this because I want this because it's going to make me happy, right? If I get this thing, it's going to make me happy. So you create this thing that makes you happy in your head. And you're like, well, if I got this in real life, I'd really be happy. But I teach this amazing workshop, and I always tell people there is no key to happiness, right? That thing that you've created in your mind is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to everything. Happiness is the key. So if you can get happy, if you can raise your vibration in gratitude and happy, because joy is inside, happiness is outside, right? So, but if you can raise your vibration, those things that are coming into your life are going to match your vibration. So if you're in jealousy and fear and that kind of stuff, you're way down at the bottom of that scale. So you're going to be attracting in people who are jealous and fearful and insecure and this and that. So even though you might have attracted somebody that looks like what you wanted, where your vibration is kind of, where you're matching. So my daughter, I think it's about a year, my daughter's been practicing this stuff since she was a little kid, because that's when I started learning it. And then I was, she had this bully at school, I remember, and we were like, okay, what do we want? We want that bully to move away, and we want that bully to leave you alone, and da da da. And she came home like 3 days later, Mom, she's moving to Vegas. We're like, woo! Yeah. But about a year and a half ago, she called me and she said, oh, I'm just tired of this boyfriend I have, Mom, and he does this, 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 and this. And I said, well, where were you when you met him? Where were you, emotionally and everything else? She's like, I was depressed. I was very anxious. I was unable to make any steps forward. I was I was sort of spinning. I didn't really know what I wanted. And I just come out of another relationship and he was all over the place, da 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 da. And I said, so what is he doing right now? Oh, he's depressed and he's anxious and he's this and he's that. Has he been that way the whole time? Yes. Were you that way when you met him? Yes. So, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm ready for this relationship. Are you ready for this relationship? This an ideal, are you those things that you want?
Yeah.
Are you those things that you want? If you're not those things that you want, you're not going to be attracting those things. That's just the bottom line. That's just the way it works. That's just the way the energy works, right? So you want someone who's well adjusted and happy and loves their freedom and wants to share their journey with you, blah blah blah. Are you that? Are you there? Are you prepared for that in being that? Because you attract where you are.
Right.
Okay. So, I mean, look at what is behind you. You've manifested that, and that was a long time dream for you. And I know that
Very long.
last year, I'd say probably around this time, maybe a little bit earlier, you were ready to give up. You were like, I'm giving up on my dream. That's it. I'm tired. I don't think it's ever going to happen. And it's like, don't give up.
Yeah.
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 And sometimes we feel that way when it doesn't come to us in the timeline that we think it should come to us, right? So we get frustrated and we get angry and we get, we feel powerless. So we're like, forget it. I'm going to just change things around. But you've got to match it. You've got to match what it is you want for it to come in.
So I love this answer. So what I'm hearing in just a couple of sentences is that if there's something that you want and you're not getting it and you've been visioning it, then you get to look inside and
Correct.
see if you are actually ready for it, vibrating with that vibration, really in resonance with it, actually really ready for it, you've gotten past your fears, which leads me to the next thing that I want to hear about, because you do teach empowerment to women. And when you were back there talking about happiness and how, you don't get happy because you've changed things around you. You actually, happiness is what helps to create. And I can just imagine that there are all these people out there going, I'm so unhappy. Yeah. I don't know how to be happy.
Right.
I don't know what to do or be to make myself be happy. So how would you coach somebody who came to you with that problem, going, how can I create anything if happiness is the key to creation and I don't know how to be happy? What do I do next?
Yeah. So the first and foremost, what I would teach you is that you don't have to do anything to be happy. You deserve to be happy. A lot of people think, I don't deserve, I've done this in my life. I don't deserve to be happy. Or I was taught that I don't deserve to be. You can't be happy. You have too many obligations. You have too many things. And what I want to tell you is it doesn't matter what's going on in your world. It doesn't matter what's going on in your house. It doesn't matter, anything. I want you to reel it back in. I want you to bring it back to self and just spend some time, even if it's really scary, just 5 minutes a day, right? And go sit by yourself quietly and think about what you do that makes you happy. What have you done in the past that made you happy? And in fact, I mean, I've been in that spot before where the divorce and oh my gosh, all the crappy stuff that comes along with that. And I remember calling my parents and I said, when I was a kid, what really made me happy? Because I didn't know. I asked them. And my mom said, drawing, painting, singing, playing your guitar, music, and all of the things that are creative that I loved to do. And that's what kind of brought me back. Even though I knew it, I'd kind of forgotten it, right? Because a lot of times it's like, I have kids, I have a husband, I have a house, I have this, I have that. I don't have time for myself. So how could I possibly be creative, or how could I possibly do things that make me happy? I don't have time to do things that make me happy. Well, that's on you. That's what I have to tell you right there. That's on you, because so many of us women have sacrificed everything for this teaching that we got when we were kids, that we have to be the sacrificial lambs of the family and give up everything we are that we know to serve them. But I'm here to tell you, you can have a happier family, you can have a happier life, and you can have everything that you want to have if you make yourself happy first. Okay. So how do you do that? You've got to do the work, and you've got to figure out what it is that makes you happy. And let's say what makes you happy is singing. Okay, well, instead of driving to work and, um, you know, calling your mom, right? Both directions just to talk and get that energy out. One way to work, put your favorite songs on and sing your heart out. That's going to raise your vibration almost instantly, right? Because and you love it, and you don't have to be embarrassed or fearful that anyone's hearing you or whatever. You're just singing your heart out on the freeway. Yay. Okay, that's one way. Say you love to cook, right? So do some meal planning and take time out of your day and go shopping by yourself. Don't bring the kids to the store with you. And enjoy, look up recipes on Pinterest and make yourself some cookbooks and that kind of thing, and just enjoy the process and the journey and have zero expectations. That's another thing. Expectations just lead to resentment, because what's going to happen is if you have zero expectations, you're creating for the love of it. And whether or not your kids like it, whether or not your husband likes it, next time, okay, well, I won't make that dish, but don't take offense. Just be like, well, I created this amazing thing. I'm going to enjoy it. I hope you guys do too. And, it's taking your power back, right? It's taking your power back. And you can't, when you're that unhappy, you feel powerless. And that often leads, when you feel powerless, imagine if you're in a relationship and you feel powerless and you're unhappy, and then your partner is feeling powerless because they can't make you happy, and everyone's feeling powerless. Well, what happens then? A lot of arguments, because anger feels better than powerlessness. And so, but what you want to do is you want to get yourself to happy, right? You want to get yourself to happy. And if you can kind of get there more often, 5 minutes a day is really all it takes to feel that again, to feel that higher vibration again, then you kind of want it more, right? You want it more. So once, oftentimes the woman is the guiding energy in the family. You know how they always say, if wifey's not happy, nobody's happy, or whatever. I know there's some kind of weird saying like that, but it's true. Like, as women,
There's
we
like
are
happy
the
wife,
most
happy life. There's
right. Yeah, like I'm so bad at
but I like yours too. If the wifey's not happy, nobody's happy.
But there's that kind of saying, right? So, but what we don't realize is everyone's looking to mom, everyone's looking to and maybe it's not mom, but to the woman for the guidance of energy in the house. And it's an unspoken thing, nobody really knows about it, but if you're not happy, the kids are fighting, the old man is grumpy, everybody. But if you're happy, you're kind of pulling everyone into your vibration, right? You're just like, hey, things are good, mom's happy, and try not to take things too seriously, right? Because if you can learn how to raise your vibration on a regular basis and feel when you're going down a little bit. I mean, I used to live in that powerless at the very bottom of that scale a lot. And, crappy things just kept happening more and more. And I'm like, oh my gosh, when is this ever going to end? But once I learned how to move back up that scale and get up there, now, if I get to even boredom, which is only like maybe a third of the way down the scale, like I start feeling terrible. And I never want to get all the way back down there. Sometimes it just happens. But I know how to get back out if it does. And it's really, you've got to do the work. And I actually had this conversation with someone yesterday about how there are a lot of people out there who are say, only for $5,000, I can teach you how to get everything you want. And in 6 weeks or whatever. But, it's like, to me, that's like snake oil salesman, because no matter what, you've got to do the work. You've
Yeah.
got to figure it out. You've got to figure out. I read a great quote the other day. It said, well, this is for more people that use drugs and alcohol to cover up, to avoid whatever. And it says, drugs and alcohol, your Band-Aid. I want to see the bullet hole, right? Mm-hmm. What is that you're covering up? What is it that you don't want to look at? And whatever it is, it's always kind of playing in the background that's just bringing you down all the time, right? And if you're unhappy with your marriage, all right, then take steps to make it better or leave it. Like, we've got to get over this idea that you have to be married forever, or that there's one person for you for the rest of your life, or, if that one person's making you freaking miserable for the rest of your life, is that how you want to live? You've got this one glorious life. What are you going to do with it? Right. And for me, I thought, oh, well, I've got these kids, and these kids need the parental unit. It's what I was taught, right? You need the parental unit and everything else. They were just fine. They were just fine. In fact, they were better than fine once everything was done. They were just relieved.
Yeah.
Because kids, they feel all the energy, even if they're just up in their rooms, but you guys are fighting downstairs, they feel it, they get it, So what can you do to raise your vibration? What makes you happy? And if you don't know what makes you happy, that's the work. That's the work that you've got to do. Do you, I don't know, watch fashion designers and stuff on TV, and you love that show, and you like, oh, I wish I could do that. Well, go and take a class and make yourself a dress or something like that. Just follow your passion. And it doesn't, and this is another thing, it doesn't have to turn into your life's work. It doesn't have to mean that you have to leave everything behind, become a fashion designer, but you could just go in and say, I'm feeling a little low today. I'm going to go in and sew for a bit. That's going to raise your vibration. I'm going to go in and cook for a bit. I'm going to go paint. I'm going to do whatever it is. I'm going to go for a walk in the woods, because that's what really makes me feel better. I'm going to go for a drive and sing my lungs out, because that makes me feel better. And I don't want to do it in my house because, that's just the way it is. Yeah. But at some point, you might start singing in the house, because that's where you live, and that's, what you love. So it's a journey, though. It's a step-by-step process. And the first step is identifying what it is that makes your heart sing.
Yeah. And this is where I feel like this is a great segue into the next thing I would love to hear you talk about. And I want to back up for a second, because Abraham Hicks has been coming up, and happiness has been coming up. And I want to, and the way you've been describing discovering happiness has been coming up. And I want to just mention here that for me, there was a time in my life that listening to Abraham Hicks recordings was the only thing that made me feel better.
Right.
At all. So for those of you out there who have not heard of Esther and Jerry Hicks, it's now just Esther. Jerry has moved on to the next.
He is transitioned.
Yes. It's now just Esther, and Esther channels a collective energy that she calls Abraham, or this energy calls itself Abraham.
Right.
And there isn't a question too mundane that Abraham won't answer. So right. that collective will answer all questions. And one of the things that helped me the most was this description of how to get happy. And the way Esther spoke of it as the Abraham energy was that, well, if everything is crap, then you just imagine and intend for that things are going to be a little less crappy.
Right.
And then only just, so that's super crappy, then like you just move up to crappy.
Yeah.
And then a little less crappy until it's like, okay, things are just sort of neutral. And until, okay, every now and then you feel a little better than neutral. You take things in increments until you reach the joy space.
Mm-hmm.
And where I'd like to take this is the collective energy that we are generally tapping into,
Yeah,
that here, that is, there's a lot of lack and fear on the planet.
right.
And like what you originally were tapping into when the weather was so bad and you were scared, and then you said, oh, wait a minute, I have access to something else. So
Right.
what I would like you to share is what your vision is of, first, how that works. If you have a system or a tool you can offer people to go from looking at what's
Hmm.
here, I think that's the only thing I have to create with, to
Yeah,
going to like the pure source energy, and then what gets to happen as a collective. I mean, collectively we are creating this situation. So
correct.
when we step out of that box like you did with the snowstorm, when more of us do that, what is going to happen here? What gets to happen on this planet?
Right. Okay. So first of all, when you're tapping into that, it's funny because I just spent about 3 hours yesterday recording a 3-part podcast about this very thing, about the collective energy and what's happening, and you know um, and war and abortion and trafficking, and there's all kinds of stuff. We're just completely surrounded with all of this stuff all the time. So if I was going to tell you, if you weren't interested in the energy or anything else at all, just turn the news off. Stop watching the news, number one. Number two, if you're really concerned about some of these issues, then there are steps you can take to get involved, but it doesn't have to consume you, because what happens is all of these things are happening as a collective energy, right? And it's all fear based. It's all driven by fear. One group is fearful that you're doing something terrible, and the other one is a group that I'm fearful that I'm not going to be able to do that thing anymore, no matter what it is. And it's all fear based. So what I say, the number one thing that I teach is to bring it back into self, right? Bring it back into self. Okay, here I am. All the stuff's going on that I really just I feel is terrible, but I'm sitting right here in my office right now. What can I do about it right now? Absolutely nothing. Okay, absolutely nothing, except raise your vibration. So what can you do then about that thing? Okay, let's say abortion. I know where I stand on that. Wouldn't it be nice if it turned out this way and women had rights and were able to control their bodies and blah, blah, blah. And war. Wouldn't it be nice if there were more women leaders in the world, and we led with peace, and we led with negotiation, we led with love. And like there are so many countries now that have women leaders who are just doing good things, and that we could, I mean, war's been on the planet for I don't know how long, because men think that they deserve whatever they want and they'll do anything to get it. And that's just not the way that things actually work, right? So with that being said, I'm going to take it. No, you're not. Okay, fear, no matter what you call it, it's fear. I'm not going to have it. They've got it. I want it. They're going to take it. It's all fear based and feeling powerless, right? So what can we do about all of this stuff as we're sitting here watching this in a room? Absolutely nothing other than raise our vibration around it. So you can spend time meditation, imagining, doing this creative visualization, imagining a world, what it would look like in peace, when people had rights to be wherever they wanted, to love whoever they wanted, to control their body, all the things that we're all arguing and fighting about. But whatever it is, doing what you can to envision that. When you do that, you are actually creating, you're co-creating with the universe. So as we're each doing that, we're co-creating a new earth. We're co-creating this new way of living, this new environment. And, sometimes you can see, if you take it down to a really small area, like a group living situation, like a commune, or, for lack of a better word, I mean, there are other environments like that, artists' colonies or whatever, where everyone has a role, everyone's contributing in a certain way. There are clear leaders in different situations. And those, although there are issues with that as well, that's the closest thing I can come to with describing this. But in a world where we all have our own roles, and we're all minding our own business, and we're all co-creating with the universe, and we're all heading towards the same goal of peace and harmony on this planet, right? And once we start co-creating with the universe, people who are vibrating at different levels. So let's say, this little kid grows up and he's like, hears on the news all the time that the oceans are dirty, and he sees whales beached, and he sees fishermen killing hundreds of dolphins, and, all this stuff. And he's like, I want to do something to change this when I grow up. And so he just co-creates with the universe as, things are going. And the next thing you know, he grows up and he invents a thing to clean up the big plastic island out in the Pacific, or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So as we, like right now, being in this very beginning of the age of Aquarius, which is just, Aquarius, I've talked about this before in the group, about Aquarius is ideas and inventions and new ways of doing things. And even though people think Aquarius, is holding that big vase and there's stuff pouring out of it, it's not a water sign, it's an air sign. And it's all about the inventors and the idealists and the people who are just like pulling ideas out of the air and going, wow, what if we did this? Yeah, let's do that, And so we're going to see, as time goes on, we're going to see a lot of really great innovation, a lot of really great things, including what we're talking about right now, and more people understanding co-creating and quantum energy, and how we are really the ones making all of this stuff happen, right? Making all of the good and the bad, like beautiful, wonderful things. And so, it's gonna take a lot of people will be leaving us. A lot of people will be leaving our planet who just can't get on board with this, but that wasn't their path, and that wasn't their purpose. And so, yeah, it's going to be an amazing new world. It's going to take time, and we have to be patient, but what we can do is just come back to self. Stop living in fear. Stop living in powerless. I'm powerless to control the Supreme Court. I'm powerless. But what can I do? What can I do? I can sign a petition. I can call my senator. I can, I can do my part, and then I can leave it alone. Right? I can do my part physically, but the rest of me can sit every day and envision what it is that I want and co-create with the universe. But I don't have to sit there and dwell in it all the time and have it make me depressed because they're gonna be taking away our rights, and
Right.
like that. Like, no. In reality, read the law, read who it's going to affect, figure out how you can help. That way, help the women of Alabama. How can you help the women of Alabama? You can, figure out who to call. You can sign a petition. You can do that. But it doesn't have to consume your whole life. So it's really It's really that overthinking, and we overthink when we feel powerless, right?
Yeah.
Because we start spinning and we start.
Yeah.
So I always say, bring it back in. Like, here's the whole big world, and I'm going to bring it back all the way down. Like they do, there's always that like, and it drops down to the pinpoint in the map, from space kind of thing. Bring it back down. Here I am. What can I control right now? Right now, right now, right now. I can control me. So how do I want to feel? I want to feel good. Okay, what makes me feel good? Go and do that thing.
Yeah.
It really does come down to that, right? What makes me feel good? Go and do that thing.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And I would love it, before we close today, for you to let's do some snaps for the She Is Me conference. Tell people about that. And I know you have one coming up soon. You can please tell people about that, how they can sign up for that, and how else to contact you.
Sure. So the She Is Me conference is a platform. It's called the conference. We have an annual conference, but it's really a platform for women's empowerment. We have lots of different events every year. The annual conference is always in July. And this past year in October, we had for Domestic Violence Month in October, we had a special event. It was a day-long live event. We had a Grammy award-winning musician do some live music. She's a survivor as well. So that was really fun. And in January, we had a light worker and healer event. And we had, 20 speakers or so at that event too. But it's a 4-day live virtual event. You can, if you'd like to speak, if you have a story, typically what we ask of our speakers is to, you have about 45 minutes. You tell your story, tell sort of what that aha moment was, how you changed what you did about it, how you're thriving now, and how you help other women thrive that have been in that situation as well. So it's really all about empowerment. It's really all about helping others, because you never know when you tell your story who's going to resonate with I'm in that same spot. Oh my gosh, I could be thriving and moving forward. So if you do want to be a speaker, it's sheismeconference.com. Right on the front landing page where the countdown is, there's a link, and you can fill out the speaker form, and I'll send you a speaker packet. And as long as you agree with our mission and send me what I need by the time I need it, you can speak at the conference. And if you would like to attend the conference, I haven't posted all of the different levels. There are different levels of attendees, just like you would at a normal conference. You can attend all the sessions live, and that's it. Or you can attend and view the recordings, or you can become a member and have access all year long to all of the events. So there's different levels, and those will be posted pretty soon. Right now, I'm trying to get the speaker lineup, because it doesn't make sense to say, hey, come to this conference, and you don't even know who's going to be speaking. So trying to get that done. But if you go to sheismeconference.com, you can ask to be added to the mailing list, and then you'll be notified when all of that opens up and who the speakers are going to be and everything else. So it's July 21st through the 24th, Thursday through Sunday. And typically on Sunday, we have sort of a round table. Anyone, we pick a subject, we have a round table. So those are usually pretty enlightening and wonderful. And you can, if you're an attendee, you can submit questions for the roundtable. And so we really do address all of that. Yeah, I think that's it.
That's it. Awesome.
Yeah, that's it.
And everything will be included in the outgoing email. If you can't remember all of that, that's okay. The ways to contact Lisa to participate or to just go in and listen to the conference will be detailed so that you don't have to remember all of this. Lisa, thank you so much for being here with me today. This has been a super fun conversation, and I've really enjoyed all all of the many little details, just very, very enlightening and created lots of clarity. So
Oh, thank you.
you.
Congratulations on the mothership again.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
All right, everybody. We are signing off for now, and this won't be the last, though.